On the basis of evidence collected and examined and analysed by my office, I have reasonable grounds to believe that 3 senior leaders of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Daif, and Ismail Haniyeh, bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of Israel and the State of Palestine from at least the 7th of October 2023. I can also confirm today that I have reasonable grounds to believe, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of the State of Palestine from at least the 8th of October 2023.
Let's go live to Jerusalem now. Irris Makler is our correspondent. She's with me on the programme. Irris, reaction pouring in to those words from Karim Khan. Israeli leaders among them. Give us the latest on what's being said today.
What we're hearing, I think, is pretty much outrage across the board in Israeli politics. We've heard from the leader of the opposition who says this is an indelible mistake and it cannot be allowed to stand, and turning to the US to look for its support. We've heard from Benny Gantz, who is currently a member of this government, a former military chief of staff himself, but not from Netanyahu's party. And he has also called it moral blindness and a terrible, indelible mistake. We've heard from Israel's foreign minister, who is from Benjamin Netanyahu's party, who describes it as scandalous and tantamount to attacking the October the 7th victims all over again. Israeli media is reporting that he's setting up a war room, if you like, and calling other foreign ministers, especially Western leaders, to see what their reaction will be and if they would actually act on this. Because don't forget, Israel is not a member of the ICC, of the criminal court. So what it does is it prevents Israeli leaders from going to countries which are, because they would then have to arrest them. Let's say France, for example. So I think that's where all that negotiation is. We haven't heard from Benjamin Netanyahu himself this time, but when it was mooted a few weeks ago, he also called it an outrage of historic proportions and says Israel has an independent judicial system which investigates any violations of law. And I have to say that the right-wing parties in his government have dismissed it as anti-Semitism and said that the war in Gaza should be ramped up.
Irris, so that is the reaction today then from Israeli politicians across the political spectrum, outraged today. What about, though, from Palestinians, those in Hamas and also those in Fatah in the West Bank?
What we've heard is a Fatah statement that is not the supporters of Hamas, actually, but what they are saying is that this confuses the victims and the executioner and calls on the ICC, the International Criminal Court, just to prosecute Israel. Hamas said something very similar and said that this would encourage that the prosecution of Hamas leaders would encourage wars of extermination, as Hamas put it. But I have to say, Nadia, Hamas is not going to suffer in the same way as Israeli leaders would if these warrants are issued. The process is now, it goes to judges of the criminal court and it may take weeks or months to issue these warrants. But if they are issued, Hamas is designated a terrorist organisation by many European countries and by the US. So they're not travelling there anyhow. In fact, the Hamas Gaza leaders are in Gaza and at the present moment under the ground in their tunnels there. This doesn't affect them, but it does affect a country like Israel and Israeli leaders more. And I've just seen an interview with an international law expert who describes it as a low point for Israel and says he doesn't know how a country, a democracy, can survive something like this if its leaders can't travel and can't invite other leaders here too. So very serious consequences for Israel if this is carried out.
Irris Makler, live in Jerusalem. Thank you very much indeed.